Let's make a stitch pattern on the knitting loom. This is the Beehive Waffle stitch. It is a lovely stitch pattern with knits and purls and a knit one below. And we're gonna have a fun little trick with slip with the yarn in front of the peg. And I'm gonna teach you how to do that today. It will blow your mind. This is a lovely stitch pattern. It has a little bit of a stretch to it. It actually looks like a purled brioche stitch, and it just has a wonderful back to it. I really enjoy the reverse. And I think it's fun to play with the different gauges to get a different feel and look from them. So if you want to change your loom gauge on this, feel free to play it up. This is a stitch pattern and you can make it your own and try different ones. You don't have to use the gauge that I use in this video, but this is the stitch video on the Beehive Waffle. Let's jump right in.
Welcome to GoodKnit Kisses. We're all about helping you stitch your love and love your stitches.
To get the written pattern on the stitch pattern and also a chart, click on the video description and the links below. We also have patterns on making a 12 by 12 or a 7 by 9 square if you're going to be working on squares for Warm Up America. So all those patterns will be in the video links in the description below. If you are right or left-handed, we have a video for you. You're right, go click on the video description below to get the link for those. Go ahead and cast on. Our multiple is a multiple of 2 plus 3. So just make sure you have an odd number of stitches. That will work out just fine. I have casted on for my 7.5 width, or actually it's about 7 width. This is 29 stitches. Well, this one's actually 27, but in order to get it to the 7, I'm making it 29. So your stitches are cast on 29 for a medium weight yarn for 7 inches. And if you want to do the 12 inches, just cast on 49 stitches. So you're going to need to cast on. I've started here and ended here. My row 1 will begin on this side and work in this direction. If you want to go in the opposite way, just look at that other video link in the description below to get that. We're going to be working in a flat panel, and your loom can be in the round, you know, connected like this, or it can be working straight. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to use this loom. Now the loom I'm using is a small gauge loom with a medium 4 weight yarn, but you can change it up by using the same yarn in, say, a larger loom, say a regular gauge loom, or even a large gauge loom with this yarn, and just play with it and see what you think. And your stitches might look a little bit closer and more open like this one. I mean, similar to compared to this, not closer. So just kind of play with it, but the gauges that are listed in my pattern are going to be with using the 3/8 small gauge loom and the medium weight yarn. This is a 4-row repeat, and because you cannot see your stitches kind of zigzagging over with this without this loom blocking it, it's easier when you put your work down to leave off one of the rows unfinished so you know which row you're about to complete. That would be my big tip before you even begin to learn this stitch. So you'll see that I'm actually going to complete this row here. This is actually my row 4, and this is what it looks like when you're completing it. So my tip to you before we even begin is, if you'll leave your row 2 or 4 unfinished and leave at that point, then you'll know where you are when you pick back up, whether that's in 20 minutes from a restroom break, or, you know, in 2 weeks because you put the project down for a while. All right, let's begin row 1. So row 1, you're going to put the yarn below the peg and go ahead and purl 1. So we just pull up a loop and take off the old loop and place the new one on, and then pull that up. So now we're going to slip with the yarn in front of the peg, and all we do is just simply put the yarn in front. And that's really it. And then you're going to move on to the next stitch. Here we're just going to purl another stitch. So our 3rd peg in, we're going to purl, take the old off, put the new on, and pull it. So you're just going to continue across that way. So really you just ignore that stitch and just keep your yarn in front and purl every other stitch. This row begins and ends with a purl 1 with these slip with the yarn in front of the peg stitches here, and that will set those stitches up for our next row where we're going to knit 1 below on those. So continue on this row, pause your video, and I will meet you back for row 2. See you soon. Row 2 is super easy. You're simply knitting all of these stitches, and where you see 2 stitches on the same peg, you're going to be knitting those 2 stitches together. Now, first you're going to start off by knitting 1, and then you knit these 2, or work these 2 stitches together. Now, it is not a knit 2 together, you're actually knitting 1 below. You're knitting 1 stitch below because we had reserved 1 stitch from the row before on there, and it just makes it so much easier rather than you know, working a whole row in purl and then placing it back onto the loom. So it actually goes really fast once you get going. So go ahead and work all these stitches so we only have 1 stitch on every peg. Pause your video and I'll meet you for round or row 3. See you soon. Row 3, we're going to start by purling 2. So purl 1 and purl 2. There's the second one. All right, and now you're going to repeat as you did before on row 1. You're going to slip with the yarn in front of the peg and then purl 1. So you're just purling every other stitch just as we did before. And you're going to go until you have 3 stitches left. Pause your video and I will see you at that point. See you soon. All right, last 3 stitches, we're slipping with the yarn in front of the peg and then purl the last 2 stitches. Oops. All right, and now we want to begin on row 4. Row 4 is going to be, as we did before, we're just going to be knitting all of these stitches, leaving 1 peg or 1 stitch remaining on each peg. So we're knitting 2, and you notice row 3 ended with a knit 2, just like we had, or yeah, with a purl 2, just as we had begun with a purl 2. So they're even on both sides. So go ahead on row 4, just knit all these stitches. Of course, we're using a U-wrap knit technique. You can use a regular knit, or some people call it a reverse purl. I would not do a flat knit on here. Make sure you're being loose with your U-wrap knit stitches, or else these are going to be way too tight. And just continue on. And pause your video and I will meet you back at the end of this row. And do yourself a favor and go ahead and leave the last 3 stitches unworked. We'll see you at that point. See you soon. All right, we're down at the end of row 4 and we have these last few unworked stitches. Now this is where I'm going to go back to my original tip, which is if you want to lay your work down, go ahead and stop it right here, whether you're at the end of a row 4 or a row 2, and then that way you know where to pick back up on the next go round. So you're going to repeat rows 1 through 4 until you get to your desired length. Remember that your loom is going to be a little bit tighter across on the stitches and you want to be pulling downward to measure accurately, but the most accurate is to go ahead and knit off of these last 3 stitches, pull it off from scrap yarn, go ahead and lightly block your work and measure, and that way you know it's accurate. If you need any help for wet blocking or steam blocking, I've got some videos down in the description down below if you want links for that. But in the meantime, just continue repeating these 4 rows. When you're ready to bind off, make sure that you're on this side over here and you're ready to do a purl row, and you're just going to bind off knitwise on that row. You're not going to continue slipping with yarn front or anything like that. Just bind off as you normally would and you are complete. I hope you enjoyed working this Beehive Waffle stitch. It is so pretty. Be sure and try it in different gauges, different loom gauges with your yarn, and you'll see how your stitches kind of widen up and get a little bit more open and bigger, just depending upon your yarn and your loom used. I would love to know which is your favorite, so click down below and comment below and let us know, or send me a tag on Instagram, tag me at GoodKnitKisses. I would love to see what you make with yours. Thanks again and happy looming. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for joining us today, where we help you stitch your love and love your stitches. See you again soon.